A $99 Ancestry kit revealed I had a twin sister I never knew about. And that was just the beginning of the nightmare.
Before we dive in, as usual, I would like you all, dear listeners, to please like and subscribe to Talk from the Net. Your help will go a long way, and I will make sure y'all are entertained.
I, 28, ma'am, never thought a $99 DNA test would turn into the biggest nightmare of my life. But here we are. Last Christmas, my girlfriend got me one of those Ancestry DNA kits as a stocking stuffer. You know the kind. Spit in the tube, mail it off, find out you're 32% Irish or whatever. I thought it would be fun. I was so wrong. I got my results back in February. The Ancestry part was boring. Mostly European, nothing surprising. But then I saw I had a DNA match listed as a close family member, half-sibling. I'm an only child, or at least I thought I was. I stared at that screen for like 20 minutes. My parents never mentioned anything about me having siblings. No adoption story. No, your father had a previous relationship conversation, nothing. I was completely blindsided. The match was a woman named Kelly, 31 years old, living 2 states over. I messaged her through the platform, trying to be casual. Hey, we matched as half-siblings. I'm trying to figure out how we're connected. Do you know anything about this? She responded within an hour. Oh my God, yes, I've been waiting for someone from my bio family to show up. My parents told me I was adopted, but never gave me details. This is amazing. We started talking, exchanged photos. Honestly, we looked alike. Same nose, same smile. It was wild. We decided to meet up halfway between our cities for coffee to figure this out together. That's when things started to get weird. Kelly brought her birth certificate to our meeting. Her listed parents, Sandra and Mike Morrison, were the people who raised her. But she said they told her at 18 that she was adopted through a private adoption in 1992. The adoption records were sealed, and they didn't have much information about her biological parents. I told her about my parents, Jennifer and Tom. We started comparing details, dates, locations, anything that might explain the connection. Then Kelly went pale. Wait, 1992? I was born in April 1992 at St. Mary's Hospital in Pennsylvania. Where were you born? St. Mary's Hospital, I said. July 1994. We both just stared at each other. Do you think, Kelly started, then stopped. Do you think one of our parents had an affair? Maybe your dad is my bio dad, or your mom is my bio mom. I didn't know what to think. I told her I needed to talk to my parents before we went any further. She agreed. That night, I drove to my parents' house. I brought my laptop with the DNA results pulled up. My hands were shaking when I knocked on their door. Mom, Dad, we need to talk. I showed them the results. Told them about Kelly. Asked them point blank. Did one of you have another child that you never told me about? The look on their faces, I'll never forget it. My mom started crying immediately. My dad went completely white. Sweetie, my mom said, her voice shaking. This is complicated. Complicated how? I demanded. Do I have a half-sister or not? My dad sat down heavily on the couch. We need to tell you something. Something we thought we'd never have to explain. My heart was pounding. Just tell me. Kelly isn't your half-sister, my mom said quietly. I was confused. But the DNA test says she's your full sister, my dad interrupted. I laughed. I actually laughed because it was so absurd. That's impossible. I'm an only child. I've always been an only child. No, honey, my mom said, tears streaming down her face now. You're not. You had a twin sister. You were both born at St. Mary's Hospital in April 1992. And the room started spinning. What are you talking about? I was born in July 1994. I've seen my birth certificate. That's not your original birth certificate, my dad said quietly. We had to get you a new one after what happened. After what happened? I was practically yelling now. My mom looked at my dad, then back at me. There was a mix-up at the hospital. You and another baby were accidentally switched. We brought home the wrong baby. We didn't find out until when? Until 18 months later, my dad said. A nurse who'd been working at the hospital came forward. She'd realized what happened and couldn't live with herself anymore. She contacted both families. I couldn't breathe. So Kelly, the baby you brought home wasn't you, my mom whispered. Our biological daughter was being raised by Sandra and Mike Morrison. And we've been raising their biological daughter. The baby we now knew wasn't ours. So what did you do? I asked, even though part of me didn't want to know. The Morrisons wanted their biological daughter back, my dad said. And legally, they had every right to her. And we wanted our biological daughter back, one of you back. So you just traded us like we were objects? It wasn't like that, my mom said desperately. It was the most painful thing we ever went through. We'd spent 18 months bonding with Kelly, loving her as our daughter. And then we had to give her back and bring home a toddler we'd never met. Why don't I remember any of this? You were only 18 months old, my dad explained. Too young to form permanent memories. We moved to a different state, got you a new birth certificate with your real birth date, and started over. The Morrisons did the same. We all agreed never to contact each other again, to let both girls grow up without the confusion and trauma. I felt like I was going to throw up. So my entire life is a lie? No, my mom said. You're our son. You've always been our son. You've got you back a little late. Does Kelly know? I asked. Do her parents know about me? Her parents knew they had to give up the baby they'd been raising and take back their biological child, my dad said. But we all agreed not to give them details until they were adults. We thought it would be too traumatic. Well, congratulations, I said, standing up. Kelly just found out through a DNA test that she has a twin brother and that her entire childhood was based on a hospital fuck-up. How do you think she's going to feel when I tell her? Please, my mom begged. Think about this. Think about what telling her would do to her parents, to everyone involved. But I was already walking out the door. I got in my car and just drove, my mind racing. I called Kelly, told her everything. She was silent for a long time, then started crying. So I'm not adopted. I'm Swiss, and my adoptive parents are actually my biological parents who just got me back late. Yeah, I said, and you are not my half-sister. We're twins. I need to talk to my parents, she said, her voice hollow. I need to hear this from them. We hung up. I sat in the parking lot for an hour, just trying to process everything. The next day, Kelly called me back. She was furious. They confirmed it, everything you said, and they're mad at me for digging into the past and opening old wounds. They said I should have left it alone. Over the next few weeks, everything spiraled. Kelly confronted her parents more aggressively. Their relationship imploded. She told them she felt betrayed, that her whole life was a lie, that they'd stolen 18 months from her real family. They said they were following legal advice and doing what was best for everyone. My parents were devastated that the secret was out. My mom kept crying and asking why I couldn't just let sleeping dogs lie. My dad stopped talking to me entirely for 2 weeks. Kelly and I started meeting regularly, trying to figure out our relationship. We're twins, but wouldn't grow up together. We're strangers who share DNA. It's bizarre and painful and confusing. But then Kelly said something that made my blood run cold. I want answers from the hospital, she said. I want to know how this happened. I want to know who was responsible. Kelly, this was 30 years ago, I said. Everyone involved probably doesn't even work there anymore. I don't care, she said. Someone needs to be held accountable. Against my advice, she hired a lawyer and started making inquiries with St. Mary's Hospital. And that's when everything got so much worse. Last week, Kelly called me hysterical. You need to sit down right now. What happened? The hospital finally sent over records, she said. And there's something really wrong. Wrong how? The nurse who came forward about the switch? Her name was Margaret Chen. She worked in the maternity ward from 1988 to 1994. Okay. He didn't just report one switch. She reported multiple switches. Over years, the hospital covered it up, paid settlements to the families involved, and sealed everything. I felt cold all over. Multiple switches? How many? They won't say exactly. But in the internal investigation documents, there are references to systematic irregularities in infant identification protocols from 1987 to 1994. My God. It gets worse, Kelly said, her voice shaking. Margaret Chen didn't come forward because she felt guilty. She came forward because she was fired. The hospital found out what she was doing and fired her, but they didn't report her to authorities. They just covered it up and paid off families quietly to avoid a scandal. What was she doing? Kelly's voice dropped to a whisper. I think she was switching babies on purpose. I think there are dozens, maybe hundreds of families out there who have the wrong kids and don't even know it. I couldn't speak. My throat became dry. The words won't come out. I'm going public with this, Kelly said. I'm contacting the media. People deserve to know. Kelly, wait. No! Our entire lives were derailed because of this woman. How many other people are out there living lives? How many other families were destroyed? But if you go public, you'll destroy even more families, I said desperately. Think about all the people who will get DNA tests now. All the families that will be torn apart. Is that really what you want? People deserve the truth, she shouted. We fought for an hour. She hung up on me. 2 days later, her story was on the news. Hospital baby swapping scandal. Dozens of families potentially affected. My phone exploded. My parents called devastated. Kelly's parents called her furious. My extended family started asking questions. People I went to high school with were messaging me. And then the other families started coming forward. A woman who was born at St. Mary's in 1989. took a DNA test after seeing the news. Found out her brother wasn't her brother. Her parents admitted they'd been part of a quiet settlement years ago, but never told the kids. Another family discovered their son wasn't biologically theirs. Their biological son had been raised 3 towns over. Both sons were now in their 30s with their own families. More and more stories, more and more families imploding. Kelly called me yesterday crying. I didn't think it would be this bad. I thought people would want to know I thought I was helping. You opened Pandora's box, I said, trying not to sound accusatory, but probable of failing. You can't put this back. People are blaming me, she sobbed. They're saying I destroyed their families, but never switched the babies. I just wanted answers. I know, I said, but now we have to deal with the consequences. My parents aren't speaking to me. They say if I'd never taken that DNA test, none of this would have happened. Kelly's parents aren't speaking to her. Our extended families are fractured, and according to the news, there are at least 40 families now confirmed to be affected, with more coming forward every day. Some people are thanking Kelly for exposing the truth, but more people are saying she should have kept her mouth shut and left the past buried. And I keep thinking, if I'd never bought that stupid DNA test, none of this would have happened. My parents would still love me. Kelly would still have a relationship with her family. 40 families would still be intact. But also, don't these people deserve to know the truth? Aren't they entitled to their real identities? I don't know anymore.
As usual, before we start, I would really be grateful if, dear listeners, y'all like and subscribe. I am a loyal poster, posting every single day and promise to keep y'all entertained. Haha.
Major update. I don't even know where to begin. The last 72 hours have been absolutely insane, and everything I thought I knew was wrong. I need to tell you what happened because I'm losing my mind. First, thank you to everyone who commented on my original post. The responses were split pretty evenly. Half saying I did the right thing, exposing the truth. Half saying I should have left it alone. I read every single comment, even the harsh ones. But while I was reading comments and trying to process everything, things were escalating in ways I never could have imagined. What happened with Kelly? 2 days after my original post, Kelly called me at 2 a.m., absolutely hysterical. She'd received a Facebook message from a woman named Ruth, claiming to be her other sister. I was confused. What other sister? We're twins. There is no other sister. That's what I thought too, Kelly sobbed. But this woman has DNA proof. She matched with me as a half-sibling. Same father, different mother. My stomach dropped. Wait, so your dad? I mean, our biological dad had another child? No, Kelly said, her voice shaking. That's not what she's saying. She's saying she was also switched at St. Mary's Hospital in 1989. And when she took a DNA test after seeing the news coverage, she matched with me, with us. I felt like I was going to be sick. How is that possible? I don't know, Kelly screamed. But it gets worse. Ruth contacted her parents, the ones who raised her, and they admitted they'd been part of a settlement too. They'd been told their biological daughter was switched and was being raised by another family. But the hospital could convince them to keep quiet and paid them off. Didn't you ever think even we are twins, why we have different families? Something more sinister is going on below all these. Who has Ruth's biological parents, baby? I asked, dreading the answer. They don't know. The hospital never told them, just paid them money and made them sign NDAs. We stayed on the phone for hours, trying to make sense of it. Ruth sent us her DNA results. She was definitely related to us, showed as a half-sibling to both Kelly and me. But here's where it gets absolutely insane. Ruth's DNA results also showed she had another half-sibling match from St. Mary's Hospital, a man named David, born in 1990. Kelly and I tested our DNA against David's. He was eager to help after seeing the news. He matched as our half-sibling too. Do you understand what this means? We have at least 3 half-siblings from the same hospital, all switched at birth, all with parents who were paid off to keep quiet. I couldn't even sit straight. I thought I was in some twisted horror movie. That's all I can make sense of.
Kelly, Ruth, David, and I started comparing notes. All of our biological parents had been patients at St. Mary's Hospital between 1989 and 1994. We made a timeline. That's when David said something that made my blood run cold. My parents told me something when they finally admitted the truth. They said the nurse who came forward, Margaret Chen, she didn't just switch babies randomly. She was selling them. Selling them, I repeated. To who? To couples who couldn't have kids, David said quietly. My parents couldn't conceive. They've been trying for years. A nurse at the hospital told them she could help them adopt a baby privately, no questions asked, for a fee. They paid her $50,000 in 1990. The room started spinning. Winnie, Kelly said slowly. So Margaret Chen was stealing babies from biological parents and selling them to infertile couples? And then switching other babies to cover her tracks, Ruth added, her voice hollow. So the biological parents would still go home with a baby, just not their baby. We all sat in silence on the Zoom call, processing the enormity of what we just realized. Margaret Chen hadn't been making mistakes. She'd been running a baby trafficking ring out of St. Mary's Hospital for years, and the hospital had covered it up when they found it out. What we did next, against my better judgment, and against the advice of literally everyone in my life, Kelly, Ruth, David, and I decided to hold a press conference. We contacted a journalist who'd been covering the story, gave her all our evidence, and arranged to go public with what we'd discovered. My parents begged me not to do it. You've already done enough damage, my mom said through tears. Please, just stop. Let this go. But I couldn't. Because if Margaret Chen sold babies, there could be dozens more victims out there. Dozens more families living lies. Dozens more people who deserved to know the truth. The press conference was 3 days ago. The four of us sat in front of cameras and told our story, showed our DNA results, explained what we believed happened. The journalist had already done her own investigating and found 6 more families with similar stories, all from St. Mary's Hospital, all between 1987 to 1994, all paid settlements with NDAs. The story went viral. Not just local news, national news, CNN, MSNBC. It's everywhere. And then the floodgates opened. The aftermath. In the last 48 hours, over 200 people have come forward claiming they or their family members were affected by St. Mary's Hospital during those years. The hospital released a statement saying they're cooperating with authorities and deeply regret the actions of a former employee. They're offering free DNA testing to anyone born there between 1987 and 1994. The state attorney general opened a criminal investigation. Margaret Chen is dead, so she can't be prosecuted, but hospital administrators from that era are being investigated for conspiracy and obstruction of justice. I've been subpoenaed to testify. So have Kelly, Ruth, and David. But then something happened that changed everything. The phone call that shattered reality. Yesterday morning, I got a call from a restricted number. I almost didn't answer it. Is this the man from the press conference? About St. Mary's Hospital? The voice was male, older, shaking. Yes, this is she. My name is Robert Chen. Margaret Chen was my mother. I couldn't breathe. I need to meet with you, he said. There's something you need to know. Something about you specifically. Can we meet? Today. Every instinct told me this was a bad idea. But I called Kelly, and we agreed to meet him together in a public place with the journalist present. The meeting. Desmond was 62 years old, gray-haired, with eyes that looked like they'd been crying for decades. He brought a box with him. A cardboard file box. Old and water-stained. My mother died in 2003, he started. I found these in her storage unit when I was cleaning it out. I didn't understand what they were at the time. But after your press conference, I went back and looked again. He opened the box. Inside were files, patient files, birth records, and photographs. My mother didn't switch babies randomly, he said, his voice breaking. She wasn't selling all of them. Some of them she was trying to save. Save? Kelly said. Save from what? Robert pulled out a file and slid it across the table. The name on it made my vision blur. Morrison, Jane, April 17th, 1992. Deceased. That's our biological mother, Kelly whispered. Yes, Robert said. She died during childbirth. Complications. The hospital tried everything, but they couldn't save her. He pulled out another document. A birth certificate. 2 birth certificates, actually. Twin A, male, 6 pounds 2 ounces, born 11:47 p.m. Twin B, female, 5 pounds 9 ounces, born 12:03 p.m. Kelly and I stared at each other. You're not switched, Robert said quietly. You're actual twins. You were both born to Jane Morrison on April 17th, 1992. She died on the table 20 minutes after delivering you. But the families... I couldn't form words. Robert pulled out more documents. Hospital records, hushed conversations transcribed in his mother's handwriting. Your biological father, Jane's husband, his name was Thomas Morrison. When Jane died, he couldn't handle it. He was in the waiting room when the doctors told him. According to the notes here, he had a complete breakdown. Started screaming that he couldn't do it, that he couldn't raise twins alone, that losing his wife was already more than he could bear. So what happened? Kelly demanded. The hospital called social services. But Thomas refused. He said he didn't want his daughters going into the foster system. He signed papers. Robert's voice cracked. He signed papers saying he was unfit to parent. He gave up parental rights. He wanted you adopted. Both of you. My hands were shaking so hard I had to sit on them. But here's where my mother... Robert took a deep breath. Here's where everything went wrong. There were 2 families at the hospital that week who just had babies. The Morrisons. No relation to your biological family. Different Morrisons. And the Johnsons. That's your families. He pointed at me, then Kelly. Both families had babies that died. Stillborn. They were destroyed. And my mother... She saw an opportunity, or what she thought was an opportunity. She gave us to grieving families, I said, the pieces clicking together. Yes, she told each family that their baby had been switched accidentally, that their biological baby was alive with another family. She orchestrated the whole thing, convinced both families to accept the switch, to take you children and raise you as their own biological children they'd just gotten back. But we weren't their biological children, Kelly said. We were orphaned twins she was illegally adopting out. Yes. And our biological father? I asked. Where is he? Robert's face crumpled. That's the worst part. That's why I had to find you. He pulled out a newspaper clipping from 1992. Obituary section. Morrison, Thomas J., age 34. Beloved husband of the late Jane Morrison. Died April 30th, 1992. Survived by parents Robert and Ellen Morrison. Brother James Morrison. He killed himself, Robert whispered. 2 weeks after giving up his daughters. He couldn't live with what he'd done. He jumped off a bridge. The restaurant went silent. Or maybe my ears just stopped working. Your biological parents are both dead, Robert continued. And your extended biological family, your grandparents, your uncle, aunts, they were all told the same thing. Jane died in childbirth and the twins died with her. The hospital falsified death certificates. They told everyone the babies didn't survive. So our entire biological family thinks we're dead, Kelly said flatly. Yes, and they've been mourning you for 30 years. I couldn't process it. Couldn't breathe. There's more, Robert said, pulling out another file. My mother didn't just do this to you. She did it to at least 17 other babies. Some she sold to infertile couples, yes. But others she placed with grieving families who'd lost babies. She called it divine intervention in her notes. She thought she was saving these babies from foster care and saving grieving parents from empty arms. She was trafficking children, the journalist said, her recorder running. Yes, Robert agreed, but in her mind she was a savior. That's what makes this so sick. She genuinely believed she was doing good. And the hospital, when they found out, they couldn't expose it without massive liability. So they paid settlements, sealed records, and buried it. Does our biological family know? I asked. Do they know we're alive? No, Robert said. I wanted to tell you first, before I go to them. Because this is going to destroy them all over again. They mourned you as babies, and now they're going to find out you've been alive this whole time. He slid a photograph across the table. A family photo. A man with kind eyes and a woman with our nose, holding 2 tiny babies in matching pink blankets. This was taken the day before your mother went into labor, Robert said. That's Thomas and Jane Morrison, and those babies in the blankets are, well, they're not you, but they were meant to be you. Kelly picked up the photo with shaking hands. We have his eyes. You do. How do we... I couldn't finish the sentence. I have their contact information, Robert said. Your biological grandparents are still alive. They're in their 80s now. Your Uncle James, your father's brother, he lives about 2 hours from here. I can arrange a meeting if you want. Or I can tell them myself and let them decide if they want to meet you. And the families who raised us, Kelly asked, our parents, They'll have to answer for their part in this, Robert said gently. They knew. They always knew. They were told the babies they were getting weren't biologically theirs. My mother convinced them it was a victimless solution. Babies who needed homes, parents who needed babies. But they knew. The table fell silent. I'm sorry, Robert said. I'm so sorry for what my mother did. I'm sorry for what the hospital did. I'm sorry you had to find out this way. He stood up, leaving the box on the table. The rest of the files are in there. Names, dates, families, everything I can find. I'm giving it all to the authorities. But I wanted you to know first. He walked away, and Kelly and I sat there, staring at a photograph of parents we never knew, holding babies who were supposed to be us. I've spent the last 24 hours in a hotel room because I can't face my parents. The people who raised me, the people who knew I wasn't their biological child and lied to me for 28 years. Kelly is in the same hotel. Different room. We can't even look at each other without breaking down. The journalist is preparing another story. This one is bigger, darker. Our biological grandparents don't know yet. Our biological uncle doesn't know. An entire family is about to find out that the babies they mourned for 30 years are alive. And Kelly and I are about to find out if we have the courage to meet them. The families who raised us, both families, they're calling, texting, begging us to let them explain. But what explanation could possibly be enough? They took orphaned twins and pretended to be our biological parents. They let an entire family believe we were dead. They participated in trafficking, even if they didn't see it that way. I took a DNA test to learn my ancestry. Instead, I learned I'm not switched. I'm stolen. My twin sister and I were separated by a nurse who thought she was playing God. Our father killed himself, thinking he'd abandon us. Our family mourned us as dead. And the people who raised us knew everything and said nothing. I don't know what to do. I don't know who to trust. I don't know if I should meet my biological family or protect them from the pain of knowing what they lost. Kelly just texted me. We were supposed to be dead. Maybe we should have stayed that way. I think I understand what she means. Edit. Robert Chen left his number. He said our biological Uncle James has been asking about us since the press conference, wondering if we could possibly be related. Apparently, we look exactly like photos of our biological mother. Edit 2. The hospital just released a statement saying they're shocked by these new revelations and they had no knowledge of falsified death certificates. That's a lie, and I can prove it. The files Robert gave us show hospital administration was involved in creating the false death certificates. Edit 3. I'm reading all the comments. Some of you are saying I should meet my biological family. Some say I shouldn't, that it would be cruel to them. I don't know which is worse, letting them continue to think we're dead, or telling them we've been alive all along and they missed everything. Edit 4. Kelly and I are meeting with our lawyers tomorrow. We're being advised to sue everyone. The hospital, the families who raised us, even Margaret Chen's estate. But money feels obscene right now. What do I want? I want my biological father back. I want to have known my biological mother. I want the last 28 years to have been different. I wanted to know my ancestry. I got so much more than I asked for. And I wish I'd never opened that box.